Hello, good afternoon, good morning, or good evening if you are in Asia, like I am. I see some names that I recognize. We are still getting some participants coming in. Welcome everybody. Pier Andrea here. I'm hosting the session together with Jessica from the Dgroups Foundation. It's good to see some names that I recognize, and it's good to meet some new people today. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat briefly while we wait just a few more seconds before we get started. We're 24 people at the moment. We had, of course, many more registered, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see how many we'll get. Some are in the US, West Coast, so pretty early for them, so they might join along the way. And we'll get started momentarily. Hello, Ivana. I see Peter, Tony. Hello, Maria Elena. Good to see you, Laura. Hello, Sibel. Hello, Wang, Sarah. Welcome, everybody. Again, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat if you would like to do so. Of course, we're recording the meeting. We'll make it available for later playback, and we'll get started very shortly. You saw the program. Hopefully, we are set for a nice conversation today. We'll go over the agenda just as we get started. Hello, Aldo. I see some people on camera. Camera on. Feel free to keep the camera on if your connection allows, or camera off. That's also all right. And let's please use the chat and the Zoom functions to when we want to raise our hand. We have space later for conversation. We really hope to hear from not just from our speakers, but from all or most of the participants here. Just a second. So this is a really learning and knowledge exchange. We hope we've got three speakers that will lead on the conversation. We'll be talking about mostly 4 topics today. So knowledge retention, use of AI in knowledge management and sharing, measuring online exchanges and collaboration, and sustaining and growing, enhancing online engagement in communities. It's really an opportunity for us to learn from our speakers, but also from us to learn from each other in a structured way, but really hoping that this becomes a very organic conversation. And like I said, that we hear from everybody. I'm sure that everybody has interesting examples or ideas or questions to contribute. Some of you already started sharing some questions in the Easy Retro board that we shared earlier today. So we'll go back to that in a moment. But perhaps we can get started with the program. And I would like to ask Saskia from the Dgroups Foundation just to give us some very quick and official welcome for the session today. Saskia, over to you.
Yeah, sorry, Pierre. I have connection issues, so I've just turned off the video. Apologies for that. I'll try and come back on later. So yeah, to me, the honor of again welcoming everybody into this knowledge exchange, this knowledge and learning exchange. Great to have so many of you there. My name is Saskia. I am a member of the Dgroups Foundation board, and I work with Oxfam International in the humanitarian part of our work. But just a few words before I hand back over to Pier Andrea for the more detailed agenda about the Dgroups Foundation. You can see it here on the slide. And most of you know, for those that are less familiar with the Dgroups Foundation, we aim to support more inclusive and effective and sustainable collaboration in development, humanitarian and social justice work. And we see ourselves as a collaboration catalyst, if you will, for the public good, where we distill and openly share insights and learning generated through our work. By doing that, we hope to contribute to collective knowledge, and help people and organizations to connect, learn, and act together. And so today's event really is, I would hope, a prime example of our ambitions in this area to bring people together, to catalyze collaboration, to jointly learn about online collaboration in support of development, humanitarian, and social justice work. So really looking forward to implementing this in practice. We have a couple of areas that we focus on as the Dgroups Foundation in trying to contribute to our overall aim. And the first one there is around engaging, right? Engaging with each other, and particularly with partners, Dgroups partners, in learning and knowledge sharing, not just with Dgroups partners, but also with the wider sector, the wider communities of practices of experts engaging in this field. We also incubate. We have a number of online communities and conversations that we incubate, that we seed, that we provide support to also demonstrate what is possible and hopefully elevate our joint practice among ourselves, our partners, as well as for the sector. We also provide support, and so partners that engage with the Dgroups Foundation can rely on dedicated support, tailored support to use effective tools, to know what's possible, and to build on good practice and best practice in the sector that we have access to. We also help to co-design, so again, with partners and others as commissioned to help create, design, and knowledge sharing and knowledge management spaces. And those are using different tools, online community groups, but also websites and integrated approaches between different tools. Part of our work as well in support of all of this is to deliver training and coaching, particularly to partners of the Dgroups Foundation and other initiatives that we're associated to. The one that we're looking at today is really to help facilitate dialogues and events that we feel are relevant and that help us to advance our collective knowledge in the sector. So yes, Pierre is circling that one there. But in addition to that, we also help develop meal systems and dashboards to support better tracking and understanding of what is impactful in terms of online communities of practice and knowledge, online collaboration and knowledge sharing. And of course, as a public good catalyst, we promote integration and interoperability across organizations, agencies, sectors, and avoiding the siloization of our sector. So again, the two things there today that we're focusing on with you is very much that engagement, joint learning, joint knowledge sharing, trying to advance our collective practice in the form of an online dialogue with our speakers and with everybody else in the room. If you have any more interest in what the Dgroups Foundation does, feel free to drop us a message in the chat and we can follow up, one-on-one if there's any more information that would be helpful to you. Pierre, I think I'm handing back over to you at this point.
Thanks very much, Saskia. Appreciate your initial inputs, and just that was about us, about the foundation. Let's see what we're going to do today. So just quickly how we're gonna we have organized and how this hour and a half or a bit less now, hour and 20 minutes will play out. So we'll start with some very quick breakout groups. I'll give you some instruction in a second, just to get ourselves going in terms of conversation, but also to start highlighting some of the questions, issues, and challenges and ideas that we bring to this meeting today. The main part of our exchange will be a panel discussion. We have 3 speakers you've seen, and maybe a 4th one will join us along the way. While he's already in the room, we might add 1 seat at the table. And then, so that will be the main part of our meeting today, of our exchange. And then we'll do some, again, quick reflection back in breakout, and then doing a wrap up at the end. So hopefully this is all clear, and we're all happy with the structure and also with the objectives and the topics and the conversation that we're going to have today. So we're going to move in quickly into breakouts. I think Jessica has been preparing them, and in the meantime, I see some more people have been joining us. So welcome again, everybody. We'll put you into small breakouts, randomly assigned. Hopefully you meet some new people or you reconnect with folks that you already know. And we would like to, we give you this as conversation starters if you want. We're all going towards the end of the year. Has been, I guess, a busy year for many of us. What has been some of our greatest achievements that we have managed to score this year in terms of, and in the context of online communities, knowledge sharing, and collaboration? And maybe what are also the challenges that we've been grappling with? Maybe, and hopefully, we'll get some inputs and some ideas on how to tackle some of those. There is an easy retro board that you can use, has been already shared with you, and I suppose, or I believe is going to go into the chat shortly if it's not there yet. So 10 minutes, quick networking, initial sharing of ideas, challenges, and achievements, and then we'll come back and we'll go into our main part. Jessica, are we good to go? All right. Send us the breakouts then.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everybody, and welcome to the folks that have joined us. We were just looking at the Easy Retro. Hopefully, you had some interesting chat, and we were reflecting on some of the issues that we're seeing popping up on the board. And hopefully, Nancy, we can continue that reflection when we go into conversation in a moment. But with this, I'm going to just stop a second and I'm going to hand over to you, Jessica. Just changing the screen share and over to you.
Thank you, Pierre. And yeah, a really warm welcome and hello to everyone that's joined today. So I'm Jessica, I'm a Dgroups Foundation Associate and a freelance facilitator based in the UK. And it's my pleasure to be guiding our speakers through what I think is going to be a very rich conversation today. So we have Davide, Rocío, and Simon, who I'm going to allow to introduce themselves, I'm sure much more dynamically than just reading their bio. And I think we can just bring them on screen already, Pierre, because I really want to dive into the conversation today, where we're really going to be talking about some very important topics that are impacting everyone's work right now around online collaboration, supporting communities, sharing knowledge, particularly in what has been quite a tumultuous year for many working in the development sector from many angles. So as our speakers come on, Rocío, I'll start with you. If you could just introduce yourself and maybe share something that you discussed in your breakout around these achievements and challenges of the year, if you could, please.
Okay, so, well, I'm going to repeat a little bit what I just said in the breakout room. So I've been working in development since 1998 actually, but in the UN since 2000. First as a staff, then as consultant, first with IOM, then I've been doing different consultancies with UNICEF, IOM, and then also other IFAD and other UN agencies. My main, well, I started from the communication, and from there I passed to knowledge management. And since since I finished my master, my focus was on retention in 2018. I've been well, first was more about baby boomers disappearing and how we were doing with the new millennials coming with different approach to work, etc. But we will talk more about that. I think one of the things as community that I was mentioning in the group, that it was a challenge, but then and it's also related to retention, is what has happened in the development world this year. No, so as community, as K4Dev, as a member of a K4Dev and the core group, well, we started the year with a lot of challenges, and I'm happy Nancy is here because he's more the brain. But I mean, I think from in February we did a knowledge cafe, and Sarah Cummins and other colleagues also wrote an article, and from there I think there was a beautiful movement that led to the USAID rescue. And then I think during the year we had other challenges that we tried to cover from K4Dev. I think we would have liked to do more. but yet there has been interesting achievements. So, you know, putting the community together to think, the KS toolkit, the mentoring program. So in a way, trying to recuperate knowledge, to try not to lose it, to try to pass it on, the baton, no? So in a way, so I think it's been a big challenge this year, but it also little achievements that we're hoping will take bigger impact in the longer term.
Thanks so much, Rocío. Yeah, and I think it's really inspiring to see that response to the loss of the USAID knowledge from a community ready to respond because it had those strong relationships and that strong knowledge, like holding them, retaining the knowledge itself, that knew how to respond to that challenge. Davide, over to you if you'd like to just briefly introduce yourself to everyone.
Thank you, Jessica. Everyone, I am Davide Piga, and I work in knowledge management, innovation, online communities a lot. Over the past 17, 18 years, I've worked with several UN entities. My career has been mainly focused on the UN ecosystem. I helped design knowledge management strategies, action plans. I spent some time in Kenya with UNEP, in South Africa with UNFPA, in Turkey with UNDP, and now I'm working with UN Women, but remotely from my hometown in Italy, which feels like a nice break from a life abroad. Especially I have a small girl, she's 3 years old, so that takes a lot of my attention. And I also led a team at the World Bank that developed the World Bank Community of Practice Toolkit, which is something that is relevant to the conversation. And very proudly, I've been a long-time member of KM4Dev, which is why very recently I helped the community redesign its knowledge sharing toolkit, making it more inclusive, easier to contribute to, better able to take advantage of artificial intelligence while still keeping people firmly at the center. And that would be my main achievement most recently, was to take something that it was a very special product of the community, but it was not being used. At some point, it even disappeared. It wasn't very interactive. So that's really an achievement, not just for the use of AI, but for putting it back in the hands of the community.
Thanks so much, Davide. And yeah, we're looking forward to learning a bit more about the Chaos Toolkit later, but I love the emphasis on putting people at the heart and the center of it. Simon, over to you. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, yeah, thanks, Jessica. So I'm Simon. I'm an independent consultant based in the UK. I'm an evaluator and monitoring, evaluation and learning consultant. I work mostly with researchers at the moment, and alongside Pierre and some of the other Dgroups team, we work with a couple of programs that are funded through IDRC in Canada. So researchers working on climate change and agriculture and education, all sorts of issues. And I'm also, as a separate hat that I wear, is as the coordinator of the Outcome Mapping Learning Community, an online community that's been around since about 2006, supporting practitioners wanting to learn more and use the outcome mapping methodology for monitoring and evaluation. And yeah, so I kind of wear these two hats. They don't interact as much as you might think. So the online community we run, even though we're all evaluators and male people, we don't often apply systematically our practice to the online community itself. Partly because it's not really a project, and there's no one sort of knocking on our door asking for evaluation reports. So it's interesting to reflect on this question about how we monitor and evaluate these kinds of online communities. And it's one that we need to come back to time and again, I think. So yeah, looking forward to the discussion.
Thanks, Simon. Yeah, learned a lot about outcome mapping from you, so I'm excited for other people to learn that as well. But we're going to go back to Rocío to start with you. So you mentioned in your introduction that you work with knowledge retention and this very intergenerational approach. And I saw that you have this beautiful proverb that you reference in Africa: when an old man dies, a library burns. And it's really about this kind of irreplaceable value of human wisdom that kind of, I guess, runs through your work. And you talk about a sustainable knowledge society, so not just an organization, but a whole society. So can you really tell us from your perspective and all the work that you've done, why is knowledge retention so important? Why should we be thinking about this and planning for this?
Thank you, Jessica. Well, I'll start with one story. You know, you may say it happened a long time ago, but you know, the man was sent to the moon in the 60s, and in the 90s, all the team that work in those projects were sent to early retirement, and with them they went the blueprints. It has taken nearly 50 years to redo one of the greatest achievements of humankind. If you look at how we share knowledge, now maybe we have a more conscious awareness that we need to document. But then we keep thinking, you know, we have everything in our documents, you know, we have everything in our databases. Me as consultant, I may go to do a program, to do research, and I'm asked to submit a 20 pages report. So I do all my research. I learned a lot. I leave my 20 pages report, but I take with me all the learnings, all the things that remain in my head, the know-how, the know why, the know who. And these are things that explicit knowledge, the databases are not going to tell you. So why knowledge retention is important is, yes, it's important for institutional memory. It's important to know where you come from. It's not that you need to know the past to repeat the past. You need to know where you come from to be able to face the future, honoring where you come from. If you don't know where you come from, first you are maybe you're gonna face the same mistakes and commit the same mistakes because you didn't know how you dealt with them in the past, but also because you may be able to call innovation things that you did in the past that you just didn't know because the organization passed, the people changes. And again, it's not about bringing the past to look at the future in the same way because priorities changes, the world changes, managers changing, and the views changes. But it's important to know where you come from, so you are able to look at the future. There is a philosopher Kierkegaard who say life has to be looking at the future, not looking at the present and the future, but always knowing where it comes from, where you come from. And I think it's important that it's not just about ticking the box and knowing this is the institutional memory, but understanding how that makes you come, what makes you come to the point where you are, to be able to report and respond better.
Yeah, thank you. And it's making me think of this Indigenous way of looking at the future. So looking at the future as behind us and the past as in front of us, because we know the past so we can see it, but we don't know the future so we can't see it. And I think it's really great that you started with a story, because storytelling is a really powerful way to convey the past in a way that stays with us, but stories can also change over time. So I really like that idea of using storytelling as a tool to convey where we've come from, acknowledge how important that is, and help it shape the future. I just want to offer Simon or Davide an opportunity to kind of respond to that, because we want to make this a very organic conversation. Is there anything about this knowledge retention, also this intergenerational exchange, or looking to the past so we can better respond to the future or shape the future?
I guess one thing I would add is that, and this is not an idea that I've developed. It's come from people like Nancy White and Etienne Wenger. It's the idea of the communities are a space where participation happens, but reification happens as well. And those two processes you need to value and support. And so when you talked about writing a report, that's the reification. But if it doesn't come with any participation, then you're losing a lot of the nuance and some of the the knowledge behind that. So yeah, so communities are where participation and reification can happen, and I guess linking to the measurement challenge that I'll come to, both of those can be, you can find measures on both of those to try and understand the health of that community.
Thanks, Simon. Davide, did you want to add anything?
Nothing much from me except for highlighting how important is knowledge retention in a time where, unfortunately, in our industry, international development, many organizations, they are letting go of lots and lots of experts that are taking their expertise with them. Maybe an opportunity, I'll mention that later. I'd love an opportunity to talk about how we could use artificial intelligence maybe to support these organizations in making sure that at least some of the knowledge is retained. Of course, tacit knowledge is very difficult to retain when you don't put people in front of each other to talk, to have a conversation. But something can be done with artificial intelligence, helping drive reflections, which is something that we did with the toolkit as well.
Yeah. Before we go to that, Davide, I also just wanted to raise the UN report this year that was published, that no one reads UN reports. So I think it's this, really interesting and difficult to answer question around tacit knowledge. Like, what is it and how do we retain it? How do we share it? And it's coming back to kind of oral culture, storytelling, other ways. But yeah, of course, we can now look to technology to support us in our knowledge sharing and knowledge management. I'm going to make a disclaimer. I'm a bit skeptical and scared about AI and what it's going to do to our critical thinking, our creative thinking, our relationships, but want to keep an open mind. And I really want to hear, Davide, what you've been doing this year with the KS Toolkit. So we know I would like you to explain a little bit about the KS Toolkit and what it is and how it came about, because I know you've updated it this year. And as you said, you're sort of putting humans at the heart of it, but you have integrated AI. And so the question for you is really like, how can AI meaningfully support human collaboration, facilitation, and knowledge sharing? So yeah, please, if you can explain a little bit to everyone about how the KS Toolkit is aiming to do that.
Sure. The knowledge sharing toolkit was a toolkit full of methods, tools for knowledge sharing and collaboration. It has been very useful and alive for about 20 years. It has methods that people can really use. But what was happening is that some of those methods became outdated, especially the tools. Now, when we talk about tools, there are some tools today that didn't exist 20 years ago, and it was becoming more of a static resource. Plus, there were some challenges accessing it. And today, there is a new technology, which is artificial intelligence, that can help making resources like toolkits more useful in a couple of ways. First of all, in the toolkit, what we did, we tried to help them develop content for publication on the toolkit by simply talking. So we have an assistant, a GPT assistant that lets you talk to it, describe a method for knowledge sharing to it, and then it will write it down for you using a specific template and written also in a specific language style, as in writing style, because then when it gets published on the toolkit, all the articles, they need to read not the same, but with a consistent feel to them. No, you can't have a very formal article and then a very informal article. So with artificial intelligence, we took some of the workload off the shoulders of people that have the knowledge about those methods. We don't ask them to be good writers. We don't ask them to spend a lot of time in preparing their articles using a specific templates. We just ask them to share their knowledge. And another interesting application of the artificial intelligence was that we realized that it's good to have a lot of methods on the toolkit, but then the most precious part of those articles describing methods is the way that people use those methods, the practical experiences, the interpretations of those methods in the field. So the opportunity there, why, it answers the question, why do we have a knowledge sharing toolkit for international development? Not just for the methods, because the methods are the same, whether you belong to the private sector or international development. But the point here is that you have people from one sector, international development, which is very specific with a lot of complexity, and they have expertise of using those methods. So we developed a reflection partner, which is basically an artificial intelligence powered coach that helps you reflect on your experience of using the methods. You talk to it in whichever language, even in your native language, it doesn't matter. Artificial intelligence doesn't speak English anyway, it's a machine. And then it summarizes for you in extracting practical lessons learned, practical tips that can be attached to the method page. So these are a couple of examples of things we did with the toolkit. I'd like to briefly mention the limitations, because Jessica, you said you are skeptical, and I understand that it's difficult to use effectively artificial intelligence if you don't know what it is and what it isn't. The important lesson for me in doing this work, as well as other projects I worked on artificial intelligence, is that you need to know that artificial intelligence doesn't understand the way we do. It's extremely good at producing plausible language, but it doesn't have a sense of truth or context. And if we accept it, it becomes a strength. It can support the first mile. You can start writing, start drafting, start exploring. You know, when you have a blank page, it's very difficult. But if you can have a chat for 5 minutes and then you get a nice summary, then you see that you have something you can work with, and then you can quality assure it, refine it, and so on. And human, they should keep the last mile, the meaning, the validation, the judgment. Used in this way, it's a very, very, very precious and powerful tool. It helps people get started, but then the community keeps the full ownership of quality and interpretation. And that's why when it came to redesigning the knowledge sharing toolkit, to me, the most important bit was that we had an editorial board of volunteers owning the content, ensuring the quality with the support of artificial intelligence. I'll stop there for now.
Thanks, Davide. Before we go on to Simon or some reflections, I just want to do a time check with Pierre, because I feel like we're a little bit behind time.
It's good. Let's keep going.
Okay, just let me know, Pierre. So yeah, thank you, Davide, for sharing those insights into making the KS Toolkit more accessible. I love that people can go into all the methodologies and comment on them, so it's still keeping that very human-centered approach, but yeah, using AI in a way that can enhance that. So one interesting thing that I was thinking, because obviously being part of KM for Dev, you know, we also have an amazing community of people that we can also ask to help when we have these challenges, like what tool should I use, what method, what approach. So there's a question of, do we trust AI a bit more in a way if we feel a little bit insecure about our question and we don't want to put it out to humans? Maybe there's sort of a trust element. I don't know. I feel like we could unpack AI in so many different ways, but thinking about trust and how change moves at the speed of trust, relationships move at the speed of trust, and trust is such an important part of collaboration. I really want to come to Simon now. Obviously, you always ask really good questions when you're looking at theories of change and outcome mapping and evaluating. And I know collaboration is often like a question that you ask people, like, what does it mean? What does good collaboration look like? So how can we know online collaboration and knowledge exchange is successful? Especially thinking of your work with outcome mapping, where you're looking at changes in values and behaviors and not necessarily like these tangible outputs. So what approaches, tools, and lessons do you find are suited to assess the value of online collaboration? And let's talk about surveys and whether they're successful.
Well, I won't talk about surveys, but we can if people are interested. Now, I've got two main points I want to make. One, the first, I think, is that online communities are not projects and programs. Often when we're trying to design a mail system, it's for a project or a program, and you know it's come about because you know that there's a meeting between a funder and a need, and that has created a project or a program, and you can build a monitoring system around that. But an online community is a bit different because it's a bunch of people who in most cases are volunteering to be part of this, and they have their own reasons for being part of an online community. So the people who create that community, we can call them the host or the conveners, they might have their own goals in mind, and there might be funders behind this as well that also have their own goals. Not all online communities are funded, but some are. But the participants also have their own goals, that their own needs. They also might have a boss or a team that is sort of relying on their participation in this community for some value as well. So these goals might be aligned, they might not be aligned. You have to investigate that. And you have to see how you can bring participants together to conceive a sort of a shared vision of what success means in this online community. It can't just be an imposed vision of success because this is what the donor wants, or this is what we as the institutional host of this online community want. So that's the first thing, is bringing people together to come up with a shared vision of success. And that's what we do in outcome mapping. Outcome mapping is designed for situations where it's not just a project coming along with its own objectives, but it's about trying to see a change process as bigger than just a project, but you're coming into a system. So you're working with participants in that system to see what a vision of success might look like. So in outcome mapping, we have a vision and a mission that you're working together to develop. But the other thing is, because it's voluntary, often in online communities, you're going to struggle to impose any kind of monitoring and evaluation practices and processes. We were just talking before the call, you put out a survey, and what's your response rate going to be? Probably about 10% or lower. So my advice is to try and find ways of integrating that monitoring and data collection into other activities, so that it's not just a standalone, okay, now's our time to do our annual review of the online community, and everyone just groans. Or you design your evaluations to serve multiple purposes. So you're already recognizing that evaluation for accountability is not going to be sufficient here. People aren't going to buy into that. So you make sure your evaluations also serve community building, knowledge sharing, capacity strengthening, and sort of aligning that with the goals of what participants have already, so that then they're more likely to get involved and to give you useful data. So that's one thing. An online community is not a project. Another thing is, when thinking about outcomes, we can think about internal outcomes and external outcomes. So internal means how is the community members, how is their behavior changing, engaging in discussions, collaborating, using tools, this participation and reification that I mentioned. Are they producing products and artifacts? So it's about how if we're going from a position of launching a community from scratch to then having a successful community, what does that behavior entail from members of that community? So those are internal outcomes, about how the people you're trying to engage are beginning to engage. And then external outcomes are about then what difference is that making? So those people, they might be coming in from different organizations. They're going to be taking those experiences, that knowledge, that learning, and applying that in their work. So what difference is that making? Or the community of practice itself, like, I've seen communities like KM for Dev come together to try and advocate change in a wider sector, to try and influence change beyond the community. So that's an external outcome as well. So yeah, thinking about internal outcomes, external outcomes, and then I think this has come up a few times. Using stories is It's very powerful, usually more powerful than trying to get a survey or metrics. Asking people about what value they're getting from the community, what value are they, is their participation giving them. And then I think as a final message is just, as the convener of an online community, you can monitor your own role. And that's usually a lot of these metrics, what kind of tools are you providing? Are they being used? Are they useful? What kind of opportunities are you providing? Are people participating in those? How are you brokering relationships? And making some of those metrics transparent can help as well. So having a shared dashboard where you can see participation and downloads and all those kinds of conventional metrics, but making that available to the community. I think it's just different communities have different I guess profiles. Some of them are much more based within an organization, some of them are cross-organizational, some of them have donor funding, some of them are just very natural and just emerge organically. They don't even have websites, so it's very situational as well. It's not just one thing. There's many different perspectives you can take on an online community.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. I think it sort of goes back to your point of not imposing anything on your community and getting to know the community for who they are and what they want, and allowing them to kind of form their own sense of self as a community without becoming siloed, I guess, from other communities. And I see this really lovely thread like weaving through the conversation from Rocío with talking about this tacit knowledge sharing, and like we've talked a lot about storytelling. Even Davide, your AI support tool for helping people tell stories and reflect, as well as all the methods that are in the KS toolkit around peer assist and kind of, I saw some Moen storytelling methodology earlier. So these kind of stories that allow us to actually understand what we have learned, what our knowledge is. Sometimes we actually don't know what we know. So I think the storytelling can help us when we come together with other people, like you said, to kind of really like validate our knowledge with each other in a way that it can become useful. And you gave us so many practical tips, Simon, about kind of looking at other ways to integrate those evaluations throughout different initiatives that give value as well, because it's a reciprocal exchange with your community members. And also putting those questions, those self-reflective questions to yourself around like, what am I doing in my role as a convener and facilitator of the community, and how am I learning and developing? So yeah, I want to open up the conversation. We've got one more question for our speakers, and I think perhaps we also have Ivan from Capacity for Dev here that might come in on this final question, and then we'll open it up to the floor. But it's a broader question of kind of your experience now in facilitating and sustaining communities, and maybe what we've heard a little bit, what supports them, what also hinders them. Like what insights would you like to share with everyone here today who might be either leading a community, being a community member, because also it's how to be a good community member as well, not just how to host and facilitate a community. And yeah, what tools can we use, what approaches, what values also, and how do we support, I guess, collaborative cultures when we look at kind of values, beliefs, behaviors, as well as the kind of more practical tools and approaches. So yeah, Rocío or Davide, if you want to kick us off.
I would like to link something that Simon said and give another extra value to the communities, and it's linked to retention, because when you look at how we work today, we have the post-pandemic era, if you want, has brought us to more online exchanges. So when you go to meetings online, you go with an agenda. So you go, you do your meeting, and you close. Those informal interactions that were happening before, where innovations were happening, where you could just link and connect and create join the dots between one thing and another and create new ideas, we have lost those spaces. And I think it's very important to consider trust is very important for communities, because people may feel that this is the place where I can actually exchange. And if I don't have the fear to say I don't know, or the fear that I would like to hear from your point of view, I think it's really the place where you can actually connect outside the meeting. Because yeah, I mean, we don't have the water cooler online, no? So it's kind of a, so I think it's given an added value to the community for those exchanges, for tacit knowledge, for learning together, and even from retaining together critical knowledge.
Yeah, thank you, Rocío. I mean, I have experienced good trust building online, but like you said, we need to create the space for it. I think we can do it with intention, but yeah, it's not just coming into the meeting and going straight into the topic, but it's that kind of more relationship building, trust building that we can do together. Davide, over to you. If you'd like to come in with some reflections.
I mean, it's a complicated theme, but basically, yeah, creating trust online is super, super difficult. But I think that most of us, even when we mean well, we make basic mistakes. So focusing on the basics already goes a long way to fixing some of the issues, especially regarding building trust online and making a community valuable to its members. And I'm talking about onboarding, for example. When I join a community, I'm an introverted, even not everybody would agree because I'm here speaking, but I don't like to get into rooms where I don't know anyone and I don't know anything about anyone. I'm not going to open up. And even though I want to engage, I don't know where to start because maybe I'm saying something silly, or maybe there are people that are judging me that will affect me in my career. And this is frequent in COPs, it's a frequent concern. So the onboarding is a crucial part. It's not just a checkbox. It's not just about making sure that your profile is filled out completely with the right metadata. It's about making sure that you feel welcomed, that you know which room you have entered into, that you know that it's a safe space, you know what you can discuss, what you cannot discuss, you know the tone of the conversation, you know the shared values. And that's why some exercises like building a community charter are very useful because they are very upfront about what the community stands for. And therefore, they give an indication to its members as to how they can engage with others in a positive way, and they can get a return from that interaction, as in they can elevate the profile instead of thinking that they are risking their reputation, if you know what I mean. So onboarding is super important. And maybe one other reflection related to what Simon was saying. I love the consideration that you have to listen to the members and think of what's important to them, because in communities we're all volunteers. I will share it in the chat. One very interesting concept I learned while leading that team, building capacity for COPs at the World Bank, is shared value. For a community of practice to be successful, it needs to create value. It needs to satisfy the needs, not just of the organization and not just of the members, but of both. And there is a synergy there. There is an area which you need to identify where you can make sure that when people come and engage in your community, they are doing it because it's convenient to them. And those interactions, they are also beneficial to the whole organization. If you don't find this synergy, then it's all overhead. It's all, I have to do my job, and now you also want me to come to this community. I don't have the time. That happens, and that's an honest reaction. But if you do your homework and you find that sweet spot, you are helping everybody. Your community is sustainable.
Thank you for those, really rich insights, Davide. And I think it's this challenge, like you've all kind of shared. Communities are often volunteer-led, but they do take a lot of time and energy to nurture and grow. And things like onboarding members, communicating well, creating that shared value, that synergy. I mean, have you seen any examples, and maybe Simon, you can speak to this a bit, of where organizations have committed more resource to building communities? They've acknowledged the time it takes to really do this well, and also put the people first. I think we had one comment in the Easy Retro about, oh, we created another platform and it looked really great, but no one used it. And I think we often see that in these initiatives where it's like, oh, we have a shiny amazing all singing, all dancing platform, but we haven't done the work in building the trust and doing the onboarding and creating the shared vision and the like shared values, and then it doesn't work. So any kind of examples of or insights into further making it work well. Simon, we'll go to you, and then I think if we can, if Ivan would like to come in, that would be great.
I wanted to share something that I learned when I first started coordinating the outcome mapping learning community, and Nancy White was one of my mentors actually. And I came across this this rule of thumb that it's called the 1-9-90 rule, where 1% of an online community will be sort of active contributors, 9% will at some point contribute something, and then 90% will probably remain silent observers, or what Etienne Wenger calls legitimate peripheral participants. So don't be afraid if a lot of your members are lurkers, because they're most likely still getting a lot of value from that, and you can't just expect everyone to be active. So that to me led to sort of one of my practices, which is to sort of invest my energy into looking after the core group. So we have a core group of volunteer, we call them stewards, that help lead the outcome mapping learning community. I think, KM for Dev has the core group as well. And so as the coordinator, I look after them and make sure that we keep a campfire going at the core of the community. Because if people can see that there's a group there that trust each other, that are working productively and collaborating productively, then that's going to attract their interest and want them they're going to want to be part of that. So keep the campfire going in the core of the community.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. I love the metaphor of tending the fire and keeping it alive, and then inviting other people to sit around if they want to. Yeah, it's really great. Ivan, welcome. I know that there was some miscommunication with you joining us today, but if you'd like to briefly introduce yourself and then really speak to your experience with Capacity for Dev around sustaining and growing online communities. But welcome.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you, Pierre. Well, I'm from Capacity for Dev, the knowledge sharing platform from the European Commission, especially for the international cooperation, the external action of the EU. We work with a lot of implementing partners because whenever there's a project, whenever there's a line of activity, they are the ones that get in charge of going into our platform and uploading the information there. I think it's what I brought to you to talk about today is the struggle we had, or the recent challenge we had and how we solved it, which is exactly on what we're talking about. I really like Simon's last contribution about defining, aligning, having clarity about the objective of the platform, objective of the community. This is exactly what we faced last year. We were under some management reform. What's Capacity for Dev? What is the goal of the community on Capacity for Dev? And at the same time, we were reviewing our onboarding process, our registration process, to see what could make easier for users to register, but also to have first steps clear in mind. So of course, we went through a lot of features of the platform analysis. There's some that I could give to you in another opportunity, like tips and tricks. Also created a guide on how the space managers, or the people that have created spaces, pages on Capacity for Dev, how can they build a community within their own groups. And the question is, when we go back to the essential of this, what is the goal of having a community? What do you expect from these users? But if you go a little, even a little before, is what is the quality of the users you expect to join this community? And what do you want them to publish in it? So we went back to that, and I think the term that that we came up or that is in there is knowledge capitalization. So you have a knowledge sharing platform. How is the information there being relevant to anyone? So here's the final what we suggested, what we are doing right now is to turn into knowledge capitalization. We already had a lot of material for onboarding, on managing group, best practices, layout, everything, but we never had a template for example, you have an action document. How can you use this action document in a way that when users come here, they will learn from you? Exactly what we were, Rocío was discussing at the beginning. So what's in it for others? And then creating templates exactly to facilitate how they're going to contribute. So to turn around, because normally they just publish a whole entire document. You can put a description, but no one does. And we are outreaching right now to the delegations of the European Union in all countries. So they publish their own projects on Capacity for Dev, already complying with this template. So this is what's going on Capacity for Dev. I just have to add as well that we are all concerned about navigation, traffic, but we are also facing the internet itself. It's not only that people, for example, we had COVID and people are more online, but at the same time we have social media that is our biggest competitor in everything. They have the money to make the best features to fetch attention from users, and this certainly takes away from us. So we have noticed this on Capacity for Dev. We have diminishing visitors, although we have content that is being more published than ever before. It's because people don't want to take their spare time to be doing something that is work related. So yes, it's voluntary work. And by the end, we have to accept that. We have to accept that we are not going to be on the top notch of user experience, for example, which we are always talking about on Capacity for Dev, because we don't have the money. We don't have the money to make it all perfect in a sense. And because of that, onboarding is so necessary, but I wish it wasn't. When from design, we say you only need onboarding if your design is poor in your platform. And that's true, but still, we don't have the resources to make the most perfect platform, so onboarding keeps being essential. Especially if you want to engage a community, is to give away next steps readily. Someone register, they want to know what they want to do. And one feature, so one last suggestion is that you can suggest next steps to users. You can ask for contributions that are specialized. So I wanted to have 100 action documents on this platform by the end of the month. So you created this campaign, you make people contribute specifically to what you want to have on your platform. And there you go. I think that's a few keys to success on online platforms, especially on knowledge sharing.
Thanks, Ivan. So yeah, I'm happy to hear from the other panelists on any reflections they wanted to share, but I know we're also going to open it up to the floor. And Pierre, I don't know if we've had any activity on the Easy Retro board or any questions coming via the chat. But I mean, while Pierre is letting us know that, maybe if there's any initial reflections, Rocío, Simon, or Davide, on what Ivan has shared.
I agree with what Ivan was saying, but I still think the onboarding is, I think just Davide was writing something similar, but I think the onboarding is the human touch. It's that part that makes you not communicate with names online, but the human to human. And I think it's always essential because that's the welcoming, the warmth, the being part of this is a safe environment. It's not just a document or an exchange, because I think it's also, especially for older generations, we need that. We need this human touch. Maybe younger generations are more connected online, and that's okay. But I think we need, I think with, as David, I was a lurker for many years in KM4Dev. And I actually, even when I entered in the core group, I was like, but can I do that? Can I say that? I mean, Peter is here, and Peter was like, just say it, just say it. And he was pushing me, and I was like, but what if it's wrong? It's like, this is space for learning. And this is when you do that click. But I think the human touch is still important.
I mean, I want to support that point, if I may, Jessica, but now I don't know if I should, because you made the association, if you like that human touch, you're old. And I don't want to be old. But no, I'm just kidding. It's super important that you create that connection, otherwise there is no safe space. If you do want to save time and resources, I wouldn't save them on the onboarding process, but maybe on the, you were mentioning even the translating information into something, knowledge transfer, knowledge capitalization, using the right templates, making formulating the knowledge in a way that it's useful to other people. For that, you can use artificial intelligence, honestly. You don't need to spend a lot of time. You don't, like if I write a publication nowadays, don't come to me and ask me for an executive summary, for a list of, I don't know, lessons learned. Give it to AI. You don't need me. I already gave you all the content. This is the time in history when we go from you need to write less to you need to write more. The more you give me, the more I can give artificial intelligence to repackage in a number of ways. For that, really, you don't need humans. You need to design the right prompt or ask the right question in the right way with the right parameters to the artificial intelligence. And I hope I never have to fill out a template in my life. I hope that time comes very soon. But nothing can replace a meet and greet. Nothing can replace the human touch to put people at ease so that then they can engage.
Thanks, Davide. Okay, yeah, I think this human touch is very important. But then I think there's, for me, also human creativity, human thinking, that, the way that we think and the way that we generate thinking together, that maybe AI also cannot quite do yet. But let's not unpack that AI can of worms. Pierre, are there any burning questions, or anyone who would like to raise their hand, unmute themselves, ask a question to our speakers, or even share your own experience and insight?
Yeah, there's been some activity in the chat and activity in the Easy Retro. I mean, I don't want to call on anybody, but just an open invitation to maybe elaborate on some points or questions that you have asked in the chat. There is, I mean, of course, we've been covering quite a range of different topics from, I mean, and a lot of lessons that have been emerging. It feels like we might need to continue this conversation. I mean, it's already quarter past 9 here, and we got 15 more minutes. But yeah, it's really an invitation to open up the floor and see if from our attendees we're about 40 people, and I'm sure there are a lot of lessons in the room. I mean, I know Christian has been doing a lot of work on knowledge capitalization. Of course, Peter's had some comments on AI and how that relates to onboarding. But yeah, there is a lot of experience in the room. So I just invite some reflections or comments or additional questions. Maybe just to say that, yeah, this element of, listening to the users does not all apply for communities. A couple of weeks ago, or in at the beginning of October, Ailey was here with us from Claire. Ailey and I, we presented our experience on building a knowledge management platform for the Claire program. And one of the success elements was really the investment that the Claire program did in listening to the users before we build something. So, of course, this is nothing new, but sometimes these are, like I think David said, we really need to make sure that basics are always covered, right? If we want to build for success. And that's one of the lessons that we learned through that program. So just a quick addition to that. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to just remove spotlights and so we can all see each other. And then we can, yeah, like I said, open the floor to everybody. Questions, comments, please raise your hands or just feel free to unmute. There is some back and forth in the chat, but we can also do that verbally, of course.
Yeah, maybe while people, I mean, one, to acknowledge that we always need this time. This is about learning and knowledge to digest. So people might still be having their digestion time. And I'm giving a webinar on listening later today, so I'm going to throw into the ring this kind of, as we've been talking about human versus AI and this human touch and these values and behaviors, just to acknowledge that when we hear things, we're interpreting them based on our own like individual biases, assumptions, perspectives. So, I mean, I would also be interested to hear from our speakers and anyone else in the room, like, what are the key things that stood out for you? And I know we have a chat wave that we can ask that same question, but it's interesting to acknowledge what we're filtering and how we're interpreting and maybe what we're looking for, if it's confirmation bias or new learning or insights. Because for me, there's some very strong themes around trust and storytelling and this human touch, the importance of like that. But in focusing on the things that maybe resonate with me more, I may have lost some other really key vital points. And that's obviously another aspect of like how we share and co-create knowledge, that we need everyone's diverse perspective and interpretation and experience so that we can have a fuller picture. So yeah, maybe our speakers might want to share their own kind of key points that they took away from the conversation.
If I may, I'm gonna take the privilege of being the only woman with you. So no, just building what you say and what Pierre was saying. My experience in building platforms, for example, is yes, listen to what they want is basic, but then once you have built, go back to them and ask for feedback, whether it's doing usability tests, doing all the different types one-to-one in groups, but engaging them, making, and also it's not just listening, but making sure that you respond, because the moment you respond, they see that their ideas are being heard. And that's very important because they feel part of it. And I think that's very, very important, because again, linking the learning and the experience is not only what I thought I heard, but also going back to, is that what you meant? I think it's very important.
Thanks, Rocío. Anyone else like to jump in, speaker or?
I mean, we have some questions that are coming in. There's some back and forth also, like I said. We got Peter Valentine asking, we're reflecting on knowledge retention. You can see the question. I don't know if, Peter, you want to come in and contribute that verbally. I think that's specifically maybe for Rocío and David, and I think you've been looking at these elements together, I guess. Any reaction on that, or Peter, you want to come in?
I mean, David is super, would say more than me, but on explicit knowledge, I have seen, I mean, AI is fantastic. They can read so many documents, and something if we would take weeks and months to read and research, even when you have everything within one organization. So for explicit knowledge, I think AI can be a very good support. But
so if I understand the question, it's on knowledge retention. How can you use artificial intelligence and the limitations? Is that correct? I mean, you can use it, but I'm a strong supporter of using it, but there are limitations. Somehow I'm conflicted. You can definitely help. Artificial intelligence can definitely help by interviewing people, as in, rather than filling out an exit report, with the organization hoping that my knowledge goes into that report. I can imagine a situation in which I am interviewed by the artificial intelligence with very good questions designed by a human that knows what knowledge transfer is, maybe capitalizing on the knowledge capitalization techniques that FAO has been refining over the years. So the methodology is not invented by AI, but by the artificial intelligence. But then you use artificial intelligence to put it in practice, put the person in front of a virtual interviewer that asks the right questions, and then very quickly the person can talk and is inspired by the questions. that you can do with artificial intelligence. However, the limitation I see is that there is always going to be something the person doesn't say, doesn't want to say, doesn't think about saying. And I mean, that limitation, to be honest, it's always going to be there, even when you put another person to be the interviewer. So to some extent, there is never going to be the perfect knowledge transfer. The main point for me is to ask the right questions, and you can do that with AI. And you are always going to lose on something, whether you go with AI or not, but especially if you go with artificial intelligence, because of that safety aspect. So I'm 85% sold on using artificial intelligence for knowledge transfer, especially if you can't afford having a nice conversation where, you know, you say goodbye to your staff member that is leaving, and that's very decent and human. That's a very decent and human thing to do, but you can't do it when you are letting go of thousands of staff members at the same time.
Thanks, Davide and Rocío. Ivan, yeah, would you like to come in?
Yes, I think for knowledge sharing, one really important word in AI is the trend right now of search engine optimization turned to AI. This is actually what we were considering on Capacity for Dev. We do not have AI in the platform yet, but we do not want an AI generating responses based on the content that is published there. This is a decision from our team, but we wanted the AI to be able to find the most relevant answers on the content that the people have published. So this can be used in the suggestion here is that you optimize your content to be able to be found by AI and search engines, and therefore your answer or the answer that is most relevant will come up. This is what we're considering, and one of the challenges, I think this is still ongoing, although AI has evolved much since last year, is that it's very dangerous to have an AI like a ChatGPT installed in a platform that can't possibly answer anything. So it's hard to constrict the AI to be answering only on the things of your platform. If you ask him about a cake recipe or about, I don't know, something really political, it can get your website involved on that as well. So we were really being careful about that as well.
Thanks, Ivan. Yeah, have we got time for any more questions before we wrap up? Or comments?
Since Ivan was talking, I saw that there was a question from Peter on about what the new management was expecting of the platform. I don't know if you saw that, Ivan, in the chat. Maybe since you were talking, I was wondering if you could just pick that up quickly. So the question is how new management was expecting of the platform, how that meshes with what people in the actual space thought they were doing, and what you're doing differently. Did expect outcomes and results evolve? So if you have a quick answer to that, it's a large question, I guess. But I was thinking that since you had the floor, you could just react quickly to that.
I think I quite don't understand the question so directly, but if we are talking about the expectations of this change, it's not an expectation of how users are going to navigate, but it's just going back and thinking about what they want, what the EU wants by financing this activity, this website. So what they want to achieve, how they want to perceive what are the outcomes they are expecting from having this platform. And although yes, human touch is really nice, onboarding and all, if it's not my management priority, then it is not. You know what I mean? So they are focusing more on knowledge capitalization now, not so much on community interaction. Does that answer the question, Peter?
Thank you, Ivan. Let's see if there is any further feedback from Peter here before we move. I guess we're nearing our end and time for the conversation today. It went by very, very fast, very rich. There is a lot to digest in the easy retro, I guess, and also in the chat here. I couldn't keep up with everything, to be honest. But maybe Jessica will move on to our last activity, and then we move towards the wrapping up and closing, if that's all right. And please keep these questions, keep these activities, this engagement. Let me just share my screen quickly. We just want to do a quick harvest and understand what stood out for you today. And we will do it through a quick chat wave. Most of you will be familiar with the process. So please, we're gonna give you a question, start typing, but not send until we say go. We want to see all the questions coming together. And so it's quite straightforward and chat-based. So what really we would like to see, what is the one insight that you take home from this conversation? There's been very different topics, some threads coming together and diverging in different directions. Is there one thing that stood out for you today, and that you can, that will shape your thinking or your action going forward? So just a few seconds to reflect and to start typing, but do not send. Hold on, just type. And we have also our speakers can contribute to that. Everybody is welcome and invited to share one key insight. We're about still 30 plus people in the room. So we should see 30 to 34 chats coming in. Let's see if we're ready. Maybe some people are still, I see David is still typing. I can see some folks still looking at the screen and at the keyboard. All right. Maybe we go in 3, 2, 1, and we go. Okay, wow, that's a wave. It is. It is a wave. Let me stop sharing the screen so I can maximize my chat. Yeah, Peter, I'm just seeing the last one from Peter Bori. We wanted to have we planned some other breakout groups, but then the conversation was, emerging quite nicely. So we decided to stay in plenary. So that's just on the process. I see, yeah, the needs focus on the basic importance of connecting, complementing virtual and in person when possible. It's not always possible, unfortunately, but yes, that's as going in person, of course, brings things to another level, being able to meet in person. Anything else, Jessica, that you're picking up? Onboarding, of course, and the human touch.
Yeah, and I think going back to that first point that Rocío shared about the community, KM for Dev community being able to respond to USAID lost knowledge, I think that if you have a community that's working well, it can do amazing things that you can't predict would happen. So retaining institutional knowledge, but yeah, I think I liked Simon's use of the word steward when he talked about his community. So it's kind of how can we be like stewards of knowledge that is beneficial to everyone. And yeah, I think there's so much more to talk about when it comes to AI. And I think one of those things is what I dropped in the chat with that article, that the AI might be actually like eroding or destroying traditional and local knowledge. So it's like, what do we classify as knowledge is also a really important question when thinking about this, and who is the expert. But yeah, it was a very rich discussion. So I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the speakers as well as obviously everyone who attended today.
Thanks, and we'll try to use some AI to digest some of the information that is on the Easy Retro in the chat. So we'll make that available, of course. We ending our time, but maybe before we close, Christian from the Dgroups Foundation Board, if you just want to officially close this knowledge and learning exchange, please.
Thank you very much, Pierre. Yeah, in the last hour, I've been trying to write down the little gems that I hear from all the speakers, and I've got a whole page full. So we
have 1 minute, Christian. We have 1 minute.
We just so this session was about the knowledge and learning exchange, And I'll just pick up on what Simon talked about, the campfire. I think we at the board of Dgroups, we're a bit like the core. We're keeping the campfire ready, and you guys are our stakeholders. And we're always trying to find out what is the best way to get people to learn from each other. You might all be busy managing your own communities on different topics and different domains, but I think we have this thing in common. And I was very impressed with I thought this is a group of intelligent people who will be able to master AI for the good of all these communities of practice. So I'm very, very confident based on what I heard. Yeah, so I would say on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank all our speakers today, our panelists. Thank Jessica and Pierre for the excellent facilitation. And by all means, let's please do exchange with us and convey to us what kind of topics you'd like us to spend more time on next time we organize such a session. I'm sure you'll find it very enriching, because for once you are listening to others talk and not having to manage all the logistics. So I felt very comfortable and was able to listen to. So I hope you'll all be able to enjoy such sessions in the future. So with this, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today, and be in touch with us and send us a message from time to time as well. And yes, we'll be in touch for the next sessions, which probably will be in the new year. And if we don't meet until then, Happy New Year to everyone, and see you in 2026.
Thank you, Grishan. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Davide. Thank you, Rocío. Thank you, Simon, and thanks, Jessica.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye. Thanks, Ivan.
Thanks, cheerio.